let's talk about why stress matters and why it can affect us so much from a confidence standpoint. So when we get into a stressful situation, and stress is actually really a broad term that can refer to any change in circumstances where our body and minds are affected. But when we get into significant stress problems, and really the threat response to stress, our amygdala can take over. So our amygdala is, and I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but it's the lower part of the brain closest to the spinal cord, and it sort of takes over when we are in a difficult situation. Our prefrontal cortex on the front of the brain is the most recent evolved part of our brain. So it's the youngest, it's the baby of the brain. And so when we get into a situation of stress, we rely on our old grandpa in the brain, and that's the amygdala. It takes over, and it takes a while for our prefrontal cortex to come back into play, just because it's slower to act and it's a different part of the brain. Another thing that happens to us in stress is thalamic gating, and the thalamus is a part of the brain where it really the hypothalamus just looks for threats. And when it sees them, the thalamus actually takes over to kind of gate ourselves off from information that doesn't relate to the threat. So this is another thing that prevents us from seeing things holistically, broadly, and considering all factors. Instead, we fixate just on what we perceive to be the threat, and we can't see much beyond that. And the problem, this is really good if you're in a life or death situation, because in those situations, you want to just focus on the threat so you can protect yourself. But many of the threats that we have now are social threats. They're more long-term threats, and they are things that can create a situation for chronic stress and always feeling like we're under the gun. And that can, over time, lead to problems like mental health problems in the brain. They can also lead to physical health problems. So one of the reasons that confidence can be a struggle in stressful situations is our bodies are wired to make it somewhat difficult. So when we learn a little bit about mind-body connections and mind-body practices, they are tools that we can use to sort of learn more about stress and respond differently. And when we respond differently, we can get different outcomes.